you, but that's okay. Oh, now I can see you.
Ah. So today we're joined by James Ellsworth. Thanks so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you guys over there in the UK?
As well, we're on lockdown at the moment. It's just been extended, so we can only kind of go out if it's for essential foods and things like that. So is it the same for you at the moment?
Absolutely same thing, only for essentials. We can't,
Yeah.
go to any sporting events or anything. We just go to the Walmart and get our bread and our milk and whatever we need.
Well, I wanted to talk to you. This week's kind of been very crazy for the wrestling world, and I'm sure you'll agree. Obviously, WWE this week have been in all the news because of the amount of stars and personnel that they've actually kind of had leave the company and being fired essentially. What are your thoughts on that? Because it was kind of the wrong time to do it as such when we're going through what we're going through, and these people can't exactly go and get a job straight away with the current climate.
Well, I mean, coming from somebody that it's happened to, I've been let go from WWE and had the opportunity to go back for about a month and a half, about 7 months after they let me go. I don't know, like I can't speak for why or how or when they let people go. When is the right time to let somebody go?
Of
It's
course.
hard, but when you're there, they do take care of you. You get paid very well, and as long as you save your money, you should be okay for a while. So hopefully, a lot of those guys and gals save their money, and they'll be fine if they did. And yeah, there's a lot going on in the world right now. I'm not sure what their mindset is on why they chose right now to let people go. If I had to guess, we just don't know where this pandemic's going, and maybe they're just getting ahead of it and trying to save money just in case this goes on for a very long time. That'd be my guess.
I mean, have you been in touch with any of the people that have been let go? Some of your friends that you've worked with. Have you kind of reached out to them and given them some encouragement?
Oh, absolutely. Especially the same ones that reached out to me when it happened to me. It's just like any other job, man. You make friends, friendships that last forever. And I do have friends that work there, and I did have friends that got let go, and I did reach out to them. Absolutely.
So I wanted to go back to the very beginning for you, which is kind of where your passion for wrestling actually come from. Is it something you loved as a kid? Was there somebody you looked up to? Where did that passion and desire actually come from for you?
Man, I can't remember ever not liking wrestling. Like I've liked wrestling ever since I can remember. I think the first wrestler I ever really noticed was Ricky Morton and the Ultimate Warrior. Those two. I watched any wrestling that was on TV. I was born in '84, so my memory starts happening around '88, '89, 1990. So, like Ricky Morton and the Ultimate Warrior, those are the first two wrestlers I remember. Then, like Macho Man, Randy Savage, guys like that who were very hot in the late '80s, early '90s.
And I know from a lot of people that I've spoke to, wrestlers especially, the amount of graft that you guys put in regards to the indie shows and working your way up, and it's kind of not always a well-paid job. It's very exhausting. So, was there any kind of times where you thought, you know what, I'm in the wrong job, I want to do something else, or did you always know that that opportunity would come and all your hard work would pay off?
Well, you just never I never even thought of it like, man, I hope this pays off one day. I just love to do it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, before WWE, I worked with people with special needs that are mentally and physically handicapped, and I would work Monday through Friday. Then Friday night I would go wrestle. Saturday night I would go wrestle, and a lot of times Sundays. So I was working 7 days a week anyway. 5 times at my regular job, 2 or 3 times when indie shows over here in the USA. I did that for 14 years. I always had a regular job, and I always did indies on the weekend for 14 years. So I was always working just about every day. If I got a day off, it was usually on a Sunday so I could watch football or something. But 6 or 7 days a week for 14 years I worked. And man, like I had a good trainer. Like I always tell people that get in the business, find someone that made it far in wrestling. Find someone that did it for a job or made it to WWE or made it to one of the big companies. And I was fortunate enough to do that. I got trained by Axel Rotten, who traveled the world. Obviously, he was a big part of ECW. He had a small cup of coffee doing WWE shows, and he was successful in wrestling. And he trained me, and fortunate for me, he became my friend, and I traveled up and down the East Coast here in the United States with him, and yeah, man, and it just paid off one day.
And how did your WWE opportunity actually come about? So how did that actually start off? Were you approached to be on the show? Did you have to go through some audition process?
Well, like yeah, one other podcast I've talked about this. Like when you're an extra talent, like they could use you for anything. You might, do a squash match where you get squashed by a guy they're just putting on TV and starting to push. You could be a security guard. You could be in the conga line with Adam Rose or Noe Jose. You could be an EMT, just whatever you need. You're basically a movie extra, just like movie extras. Wherever they need you to stand or need you to be is what an extra is. And I had been an extra a few times before I did the Strowman match. I was a Rosebud for Adam Rose. A couple of times, like, the one time Vince McMahon, they had extras arrest them in Brooklyn, New York, and Drew Gulak was actually one of them, arrest him on TV, and I almost did that, but I didn't have, like, the look of a cop. I didn't look like a cop, so they didn't do it with me. And, I just was back there in Pittsburgh one day in 2016 in July, and they needed someone to wrestle Strowman, and they asked who had the most experience.
There we go. So just before we actually got cut off there, you were actually talking about how it actually started for you in WWE and your opportunity with Braun Strowman.
Yeah, so like I said, when you're an extra talent, they can just use you for anything. And that day, they asked who had the most experience, and I raised my hand. I think a couple of the other guys did too. And Arn Anderson, he was the agent for the match. He goes, whoever throws the best punch gets the match. And he asked me first, and I threw a punch. He goes, okay, I don't need to see anybody else. You get the match. I was like, whoa, like that quick. And it was really neat because they gave me a promo, and I was like, man, they don't really give extras promos a lot. I know they did it when Ryback was squashing people back in like 2012. They didn't do it since. And yeah, they gave me a promo, and I remember telling Jimmy Jacobs, he was the writer for the promo. I said, man, can I say this line? Any man with two hands has a fighting chance. It just sounds cool. And he's like, yeah, man, go ahead, say it. So I just came up with that on the spot, like just thinking out loud. And I said the line, and then Vince liked the line, and then he paid attention to the match, and he liked my facial expressions, which when you wrestle on TV, facial expressions are everything. You're selling to millions of people at home. And after the match, Vince said, man, you did a great job. He said, I'm going to hire you. And I said, and I thought he was kidding. I said, excuse me? He said, I'll be in touch. Shook my hand, and I didn't hear from him for 6 weeks. And then 6 weeks later, he called me, came to TV, did some stuff in Philadelphia, and then I didn't hear from him. That was a SmackDown where I was supposed to team with AJ Styles against John Cena and Dean Ambrose, and the Miz beat me up on the ramp. So they're like, oh yeah, we'll call you in a couple of weeks. And then a couple of weeks later, they called me back, and I started doing the stuff with AJ and Dean Ambrose, now known as Jon Moxley, as we all know. And it just took off from there.
I was going to say that was also obviously a huge moment for you with the title opportunity with AJ Styles. Now, when you actually found out you were going to have that chance, was it one of those moments where you took a step back and thought, I can't believe this is actually happening to me. I'm actually wrestling AJ Styles for a title match, and you're doing all these main events. Was it kind of a surreal moment for you?
I was not. It was. I went to TV the week before. I wrestled him in a non-title match, but I thought I was wrestling The Miz because he had beat me up the last time I was there on the ramp. And I go to TV, and Adam Pearce came up to me. He's an agent there, and he's outstanding. And he said, what if I told you you were pinning the world champion tonight? And I was like, oh, I'd tell you were a liar, and just laugh. And he goes, well, you would be wrong. And he walked away. And I'm like, well, what is he talking about? And then I went to catering, sat down, was eating, and AJ came up to me, and I didn't know AJ, and he came up to me, put his arm around me. He's like, me and you tonight, kid. And I was like, these guys are just ribbing me. I was like, they're just having fun or whatever. So then around like 2:30, we go around the ring, and one of the agents came up to me. I think it was Arn, and it's like, yeah, it's you and AJ tonight. Ambrose is the referee. He goes, and there's gonna be some, hoopla in the match, and you're gonna pin AJ. I'm like, these guys have to be ribbing me. Like, I just thought it was a big rib. I'm just laughing. I was like, okay. So we started putting together the match in the ring, a rehearsal, and they came up with the finish, and it was me pinning him with Ambrose counting fast. And I'm like, they're really having me pin AJ Styles, who's the world champion. I was like, what? So after that, I didn't know we were going to wrestle again because Ambrose and AJ were feuding at the time. I go, okay, well, this is a part of their feud. I'm just
give it one more, and hopefully
one more crack. Okay, one more
do
crack.
it. What I did want to say is, after your matches with AJ Styles, you seem to personally kind of grow in confidence the more we actually saw you. So would you say you actually learned a lot from AJ?
Absolutely, man. He made me feel so comfortable because I just came from the Indies. I was on the Indies for 14 years. Like I didn't like know what it was like to be on WWE and competing in front of thousands of people live and millions of people at home. And I was very nervous, especially when they said you're wrestling AJ Styles, who I had the utmost respect for and thought and still to this day think he is the best performer in the world right now. And I was nervous, man, like very, very nervous. And he made me feel so comfortable. He was so cool, such a down to earth guy, such a great guy. So what he taught me is just to calm down, relax. He said, "You've been wrestling for 14 years. You know what you're doing." He said, he's like, they've let me hit me. They've let you kick me. You know what you're doing. He's like, you're not hurting me. You're not punching me in the face for real. You're not kicking me. He's like, you know what you're doing. Just remember that. You know what you're doing. You've been doing this long enough. So he really had some good talks with me, and it settled me down, man. Every week I came back, I felt more comfortable and I felt more confident, and it just began to be fun at that point. Once you get your confidence, it's so much fun. I couldn't wait to go on TV and cut a promo in front of 10,000 people or in front of the camera to millions watching at home. Like I couldn't wait. At first, so nervous, and then I'd say about a month into it, like it became like just fun to me. Like like I loved going. I looked forward to going. I couldn't sleep the night before because I was excited. But yeah, he did that for me. He really settled me down and got my confidence up to where I like knew I could do that, like perform in front of all those people.
And what is he like backstage, where you kind of have the friendship side? What is he like as a person? Did you guys kind of share a lot of laughs together?
Oh, he was, man. He's a religious guy. He doesn't even like use cuss words. He says mother freaker. Like he doesn't. He's a I can't say enough nice things about him. He's an outstanding human being. He's a father of four. Is married, just takes care of his kids. He's just a sweet guy, and he was a sweet guy to me. And like I think one of the people in wrestling that you will never hear a lot of people say anything bad about is AJ Styles.
And did you ever receive any kind of hostility from people? Because you sometimes hear wrestlers in interviews saying that there is some backstage politics. Did you ever kind of experience any hostility from wrestlers, or not really?
I always say wrestling is just like any other job. You have your friends at work. You have people at work you may not like. You have people at work that may not like you. At first, man, I got along with mostly everybody. I didn't have any big issues. I like at first I'm like, man, I felt like a lot of those guys went through the performance center and went through NXT, and I didn't, that's not the road I took there. And the majority of the people there when I was there and now, that's their system. They go through the performance center and they go through NXT before they get to the main roster. So I felt a little weird at first because they're all talking about their times at the PC and their times at NXT, and I can't relate to that. And I wish I could. I really wish I had the opportunity to go through the performance center in NXT because at that point WWE has time and money, you know, toward you, like invested in you, and like they set you up to make a pretty good living, and they have time and money invested in you. So obviously they want to keep you longer than anybody else because they have time and money invested in you. And I think they have an outstanding system there. And I wish I had the opportunity to go through it, but like that, like I sometimes I felt weird because I didn't do that, and a lot of them did. But I mean, the guys were great for the most part, and for the most part, like there was no issues, and like it's just like any other job. There are people that you kind of like look at you sideways, and you might look back at sideways. But yeah, dude, it's wrestling, and it's like any other job. It's there's
Yeah.
for the majority it was fine, absolutely.
Another big kind of storylines that we all kind of enjoyed from you were you teaming up with Carmella. Now, when they first kind of pitched that idea to you, was that something you were excited about from the start, or did you kind of have reservations because it was almost like you're taking a step back from the wrestling side? So, was there part of you kind of like, I don't really like this, or were you just kind of, I'm up for this challenge. It seems exciting.
Oh man, it seemed exciting because Carmella just got brought to TV. She was feuding with Nikki Bella. That was over with. She lost a feud to Nikki Bella. She wasn't doing much, and she Another person I can't say enough good things about is Carmella. And she came to me with the idea. It was her idea. Hey, like I had this idea of you being with me and me like using you to help me win my matches. Like, I flirt with you, and it's like that nerdy kid, beautiful girl storyline where I think she likes me and I'll do anything for her. And that was the whole idea from day one. And she pitched the idea to Vince, and he liked it. And yeah, I was excited for it. I looked at it as a challenge. Like, okay, I need to help Carmella get to the next level. I need to help her get over and get to the next level, because she was like, at that point, she wasn't doing much, kind of treading water. And it definitely like was a challenge, and I really, really think it worked out, especially for her. She's still doing outstanding there to this day.
And do you still keep in touch with Carmella? Because you must have built quite a strong friendship during your time.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, we text every now and then, and anytime I text her, she texts me back, and she's a great person, man. She's very smart. I always tell people that, like, she is such an intelligent person. Like, she knows when to say something, when not to say something. She knows when to do something and not to do something. She's got her head together very, very well, and that's why she continues to excel there at WWE and do good things.
And I mean, I've watched various interviews, that you've done before, and one thing that you can just tell is wrestling is something that's in your blood, and you do love it. So tell us when you actually had your WrestleMania moment, and you got to kind of walk out there and experience that electricity. Is that something you'll never forget?
Oh, absolutely, man. Like, at that point, I'd been with the company pretty much since July, because I always counted since July when I did the Strowman thing, because ever since then I kept coming back. And so that was April 2nd of 2017. So at that point, you're talking, 8, 9 months into the company. And I've been working a lot. Did a UK tour up to that point, did the Royal Rumble, did a lot of cool things. Main event at SmackDown numerous times. And man, I'll tell you what, when I walked through the curtain at WrestleMania, like I forgot about all that. Like I was that kid again. Like I'm looking around. If you watch the tape back of Carmel and I walking down to the ring, like when they announced my name, when they said "Accompanied to the ring by James Ellsworth," the crowd like pops, and I felt that, and I just started looking at the crowd, man. Like it was like I was in a movie. Like if you see a movie where somebody's living their dream in the movie, it was just like that. I was looking out at the audience like, wow, there's 75,000 people here. This is WrestleMania, and I'm a part of it. This is what I've always wanted to do. That was my dream, to be on WrestleMania, and man, like it was cool. I got to do it, and it was one of the best experiences of my life for sure.
I think an important thing when you kind of go into WWE is getting the fans to actually relate to you and get over with the fans. Now, you seem like someone who can always take a bit of a joke. You don't mind making a bit of fun out of yourself if it gets over with a crowd. So, do you think that put you in good stead? The fact that you don't always take yourself seriously and you can have a laugh. Do you think that's what the fans related to with you?
Oh yeah, man. Like it's a show. It's fun, and like I always wanted the show to be good. Like I didn't like everything that I did there, but I try to make the best of everything I did there. And let me say this: I did like the majority of the things they did with me. I enjoyed majority of it. I was just having fun, man. And I feel like if you're out there performing and you're having fun, people pick up on it and they have fun with you. They have a
Yeah.
good time with you. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, could you see yourself going back to the WWE? Is that something that you think is going to be on the cards for you?
Yeah, you never know. Like when I got released in November of 2017, I was back June of 2018. That quick. Yeah, that's up to them. Like I said, man, I didn't go through their system, so like sometimes I feel like it might be the last thing on their mind, but sometimes they might go, "Hey, man, it'd be good in this spot, Ellsworth," and you just never know, man. I would definitely go back and do more. I loved it there. I had a lot of fun, and I would love to go back and do some more. Absolutely. And I think the majority of the former talent there that you speak with would say the same thing.
I mean, we were speaking earlier on about the people that are being released this week, which is caused a massive media storm. And obviously, you're someone that can relate to that. And I mean, what was it like for you, someone who's lived this dream and living their best life, and then when you found out you were being released, can you remember one where you were, but two how you actually felt at the time?
Oh man, I was here in my house, and it was on a Wednesday. And when I got the call, it said, the person that calls you is Mark Carano. He's a great guy from Talent Relations. And as soon as I got the call, looked down on it. And they had just had Carmella super kick me the week before on SmackDown and kind of get rid of me because she had the Money in the Bank contract. She didn't really need me at that point. She had the contract. She got what she needed out of me. And I thought they should have explained that more, but that's where it was. And when I saw his name pop up, my heart dropped. I'm like, I know what this is. I answered the phone. I said, yeah, Mark, how are you? And he's like, yeah, I got some news for you. I was like, uh-oh, I'm sure I know what it is. He goes, yeah. And then he went on to tell me you had a great run. I'm sure you'll be back. Just held your head up high. He's like, you went from being an extra talent to getting signed and being in the ring with the world champion and traveling the world. He's like, so you should hold your head up high. And at first, man, like a guy like me that loves this and was doing it on the highest level and really enjoying myself, like I was sad. I watched a video with Drake Maverick earlier this week, and he was crying and all that. That was me. Like I didn't record it, but like I I was crying, and I remember I cried for like 5 minutes, and I stopped, and I started like thinking, man, I live my dream. This ain't over. Like I always knew in my head, I'm gonna go back at some point. Like I felt that way. I was like, I'm gonna go in the Indies, and I'm gonna have fun. I'm not gonna sign with anybody else. And I'm going to go back there. And that was my goal from like 10 minutes after the phone call happened. That was my goal. I'm going to get back there. That's my next goal. And 7 months later, I was at Money in the Bank and there in Chicago in 2018. So it was awesome.
I mean, do you actually receive any kind of aftercare support, whether it's financially or emotionally? Is it kind of like, your contract's finished, that's it? Or do you still have some kind of contract? Do they still support you in some aspect?
Man, like every talent that's on Raw or SmackDown's making a good living. And if any of them say they're not, they're lying. And it just depends on how you live. Like I live a very basic life. I own a house, and I have my kids, and I make sure they're taken care of first and foremost. Um, but yeah, like once you first leave there, they pay you for 90 days. You get 3 months of pay, and then you get royalty checks from them all the time. Some are great, some are not so good, but I mean they pay you some royalty checks from every DVD you're on and all that kind of stuff. And man, like if you like like on the indies, I do very well in the indies, and I try to work with people and be very fair and continue, use the really cool run I had that have worked there that have been released. I feel like are all doing okay for themselves, and the ones that just got released this week, I feel like they're in a good position to do okay for themselves as well.
And you seem, just talking to you, you seem so gracious. Because you see loads of different stars have kind of a bitterness, and you seem to have nothing but positive memories. So you've seen the articles this week. Vince McMahon's kind of not being deemed good at all. Do you think it's a fair representation of him in the business? Do you think people are being a bit too harsh? What are your thoughts on the kind of hate that he's actually receiving at the moment?
Here's how I personally feel about Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon gave me my dream. Vince McMahon paid me very well to do it. Vince McMahon, anytime I met with him or talked to him, was very kind to me. And Vince McMahon changed my life, man. Like I would have never dreamed in a million years I'd be as well off as I am right now, and or have lived my dream. And like I said, man, it's if you get signed to WWE, you get paid very well, and it's up to you to go, all right, well, I could buy this jet ski for $45,000, or I could, you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
save my money and be able to live and eat and take care of my kids or whatever. That's the way. It's up to you. Like you get paid well there, and it's up to you on how you take that money and put it towards the future. So a lot of people see the internet, man. The internet's a very, very crazy place, and people need to understand that. Like a lot of people that'll talk bad about Vince or anybody, like you don't know what's going on. You're not there. You're not present when those meetings are going on, or you're not in his head. You're not in control of a multi-billion-dollar company. You don't know what it takes to be a part of a multi-billion-dollar company, and I don't either. Like all I could do was speak for myself and say the man was very kind to me. The man set me up financially where if I'm smart, I can take that money and invest it and do okay for the rest of my life. And I only had 2 years there. I mean, granted, I had a good 2 year run, meaning I was on every pay per view, every house show, every TV. There we go. Let's see. All right, I'm gonna switch. I'll
There
switch
we go.
location.
Well, thank you for being so patient. We've not had the best connection today, but what's been really nice to hear from you is not only how gracious you've been, throughout your career, but the fact that you've got so much happy memories. You've got no kind of bad blood like a lot of people do when they leave a company. It seems like you're someone that's just living your dream, and it's something that you kind of you would almost do as a hobby, if you could, as such.
Yeah, I just love it so much, man. Yeah, like anybody that's lived their dream can't complain about how it ended. That's the way I feel.
And it's been nice to hear your stories as well, and the people you've worked with. There's not many people that can say that they've worked with the names that you've worked with, had the opportunity, the stage. So what's next for you now? Is there any kind of upcoming plans that you can actually tell us about?
Well, I'm hoping this coronavirus ends soon and I go out
Yeah.
of my house. And then as soon as I can, man, I'll go back to the Indies and hit it hard again. I've been working, man, like before the coronavirus pandemic happened, I had a lot of dates coming up in March, April, and May, and June, and like lining stuff up for July and August, and it was going well. I was like, man, this stinks. Everything was going cool, and hopefully this will end soon. I'll go back to that. If not, I don't know, maybe I'll flip houses over here in the U.S. or something.
And one thing I wanted to ask you very quickly as well, when you first got your own action figure made of you, was that one of those moments you kind of look at and think this is just off the scale? Because that must be kind of every wrestler's dream when they actually look and think, yeah, I've made it. I've got my own WWE action figure.
Absolutely, man. I always tell everybody I'm just a fan that happened to wrestle too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I love this, and seeing my action figure for the first time, like I teared up, and I was like, "This is the coolest thing in the world." I collected them all when I was a kid. I mean, them all. Like if I got allowance money, or I started working a job at 14 years old. I went and bought action figures, and for me to have my own, and I got two of them. There's one with me by myself, and then a 2-pack of Carmella and I. It was so cool, man. Like I have them hanging on my wall here at the house. So
And I mean, more recently, for people who don't know, you actually had a match with Gilbert, and it was his retirement match as well. I believe you've got a close friendship with him. So was that kind of for you a special thing as well, that you could actually be the person that he was retiring against?
absolutely, man. I run my own indie here in Maryland, in the USA, called Adrenaline Championship Wrestling, adrenalinewrestling.com, and he's been wrestling with us since day one. We've been open. This is our 11th year, and he's always been on the shows and stuff. And we've always been friends. I've known him since I was 5 years old. So when he told me, he's like, "Man, I can't wrestle anymore. I'm 60. I'm getting old. Everything hurts. Like I need to stop." And I said, "Well, we'll do a show for you, and you can wrestle whoever you want." And he goes, "Well, I'm going to wrestle you, definitely." Oh, okay, cool. I didn't know if he was going to pick the guy that trained them or maybe one of his other buddies, but he picked me, and a lot of people, compare us together anyway. So it was real cool, man. We had a really sold out crowd that night. Man, they were really loud for him, and he beat me with the jackhammer, and we set him off the right way. And that was in February, right before the pandemic happened. So I'm very happy and fortunate we were able to do that show before all this craziness started. And I'm very happy that he got to enjoy his last match, and it was against me. And we had an outstanding match and an outstanding event for him.
Talking of the jackhammer, what are your thoughts on kind of WWE bringing some of these legends back, like Goldberg, and giving them the push that they're getting? Do you have an opinion on that? Because a lot of fans don't like it, but then for people like me who love nostalgia, we thrive of those kind of comebacks. So, what do you think about it?
I think that those guys should come back and win a few matches. And then when they face a guy like Bray Wyatt, who's on top, the Fiend character, they should do the favors and lose. I don't like, and this is my humble opinion. I love
Yeah.
Goldberg too, and of course, nostalgia. Everybody loves nostalgia, and you should use those guys. But to me, like a guy like the Fiend should beat Goldberg. It means that much more for the Fiend to beat Goldberg than for Goldberg to beat the Fiend. And we had like the reason why Goldberg and Brock Lesnar and The Undertaker, in my humble opinion, those guys get to come back and get such a reaction and get such a pop and get such a push at WrestleMania matches and all. It's because back in their day, like when The Undertaker and Brock and Goldberg were on the roster every week or on the shows every week, they were taken care of, they were protected, and they were pushed. So meaning they always won more matches than they didn't. So anytime they're in there, you believe they have a chance to win. So I think there needs to be a little more of that these days for guys like Roman Reigns and Bray Wyatt and Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre and guys that you're trying to push right now. I think there should be more of them getting the push and more of them beating the star. Like Drew just beat Brock. That was outstanding. It's a shame it didn't happen in front of a crowd. It's nobody's fault. But hopefully they protect Drew, but that's what you need to do. Guys that are on top need to win more matches than not for them to stay on top. And then in 20 years, they get to come back and give the guys in 20 years the rub, So I just, I do like the guys coming back like Goldberg and all, but, have Goldberg beat guys in the mid cards and then he faces the Fiend. That's my humble opinion. And everybody has their own opinion, whether it's right or wrong. And.
No, I mean, I love nostalgia, but I'm totally with you on the points, in regards to actually winning the titles and taking it away from the current talent that
maybe that's what I'm trying to say. I'm not a fan
Yeah.
of them winning the titles.
Yeah.
Titles should be for the guys that can carry it out on TV every week and cut a promo about their upcoming pay-per-view match. That's another thing. I'm not like a big fan of the top guys wrestling on TV every week too. I think that's overexposing them. I think it should be special when they wrestle. If Drew McIntyre came out every week and cut a promo, and then who's ever chasing the title at the time wrestles every week to get to him at the pay-per-view, stuff like that. That's what Hulk Hogan back in the day, man. You didn't see him wrestle until the pay-per-view. He'd do a tag at Saturday night's the main event, but he wouldn't wrestle a singles match unless it was a pay-per-view. And I think that made it more special. They've done that with Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar has, since they brought him back in 2012, and I don't compare Brock to Goldberg and Undertaker guys. Brock's there more than those guys, and he's the champion more than those guys, and they save his matches for the pay-per-view 9 times out of 10. And I think they've done an outstanding job with that. It makes it feel special when he wrestles, and anybody that's on top, I think that should go for everybody. And again, it's just my opinion, whether right or wrong.
What did you ever get to meet or even speak to Brock Lesnar? Because you hear stories that he kind of likes to be left alone. No one goes and talks to him. You leave him, in his dressing room. Is that true?
Here's how I handle things, man. I walk up to everybody and say hi. Yeah. And I met Brock Lesnar 6, 7 times. Said hi to him every time. Shook his hand every time. And he looked at me right in the aisle, smiled, and shook my hand back. He was kind. I had no issues with him whatsoever. I'm a people person. I think everybody's human. None of us are above the other. We all are going to take the same finish at the end of the day. That's just how I am. I just treat everybody with respect, and people treat me with respect. I respect them back, and if they don't like me, I kind of just walk away and distance myself from the situation. And Brock was always cool, man. I don't know. I've said every time we were on a show together, and I was on some house shows with them. They would bring them in to do SmackDown house shows against. There was one he wrestled Samoa Joe. There was one he wrestled Kevin Owens on some of our SmackDown house shows. And I've seen him at the pay-per-views, WrestleMania, Survivor Series, Royal Rumble, what have you. And I always said hi to him, and he always said hi back. And I never got any kind of bad feeling or rub from him when I was talking to him.
And what about people like Triple H as well? Because again, just from when you hear various shoot interviews, you get mixed opinions. So is he another person that you got on with and had kind of friendly conversations with?
Yeah, I didn't get to talk to him a lot, but he helped put together my ladder match with AJ Styles in SmackDown. And I was in awe of just how smart he was and how he was like, guys, you do this, do that, and do this spot here and do that spot there. And that was the most I got to talk to him. And I never had an issue with him either. Who knows what goes on behind closed doors or whatever. Like I said, I wasn't a PC or an NXT guy, but he was always kind to me too, man. I don't have much bad to say about anybody. And if somebody brings somebody up that I don't like, I kind of move on. I don't try to bury your stooge on anybody or anything. That's not me. There's too many stooges, too many snitches, and too many of that going on in wrestling. And people talking bad about all the wrestlers on Twitter and all that. It's not me, man. I'm got in the business in 2002, and I'm a believer in kayfabe and protect the boys and the girls. And if you don't like somebody, just move on or talk to them about it.
Yeah.
one-on-one, not put it on Twitter like a lot of wrestlers like talk about how bad they have it on TV on Twitter or how they don't like this wrestler on Twitter and put it out there for everybody to see, man. That's never going to be me. I don't argue with anybody on the internet about anything because it doesn't get anything accomplished. And at the end of the day, like it just leads to nothing. So I just don't, I try to get along with everybody and treat everybody with respect.
And I mean, just talking then, you were saying about Triple H behind the scenes and how hard they work. And the thing is, years ago, going back to say the Attitude Era, we didn't have the network, we didn't have the internet as it is today, and they kind of open the doors now, WWE, with various documentaries that they put out there. The 24 series and A Day in the Life of, and you get to see Vince, you get to see Triple H all backstage, and they kind of let us into a little bit of what goes on, which kind of makes fans more educated, I guess. I mean, is that something you like, that we get to see the backstage, or do you think it should be something that's kind of off limits so it gives us that mystery?
Well, there's a time and place for everything, and my fiance and I were watching this Lita DVD from like 20 years ago, and they were showing backstage stuff then with Lita, and they were talking about storylines and this and that. I was like, man, I don't remember them doing a lot of that in the year 2000. I think that's when that DVD came out, the Lita DVD. And I was like, wow, that's cool that they were doing this. I didn't remember them doing a lot of it. That's the thing. Yeah. They weren't doing a lot of that back then. So when they did do it, it felt special. Now when they do it, it just feels like an everyday occurrence. Like I think they need to close the curtain a little bit. It's okay to peek through the curtain every now and then, but to have it completely open all the time, to me, it's again my opinion. It's not okay. I think there's some stuff that needs to stay back there. But it's cool when they do the 24s on WWE. Those are fun to watch. And but I think like to me when I watch a movie, like I don't like to go and watch behind the scenes stuff after a movie. I don't care what I want to be intrigued with the movie and I want to get caught up in the movie. I don't want to see like that if I'm watching 2.5 Men that it's just a set. It's not a real beach house,
I gotta say, James, thank you so much for being so generous with your time and so patient with the connection issue. And the UK fans are gonna love that you've joined us, especially when we're kind of on lockdown and we can't go out. It's gonna be nice for them to watch something different. So thank you so much.
Yeah, man. Everybody over there, please stay safe. Hopefully we'll all get through this soon and it'll be gone. Hopefully they find a vaccine and this will be behind us. I just hope and pray for that. Take care of each other. If somebody's sick, try to get them help. And we'll try to go back to our normal, which was an outstanding world and a world that we are very happy and fun, and love to live in. And hopefully we get back to that soon.
Hopefully we'll get to see you here in the UK at one of our kind of wrestling conventions that we have, or one of our indie shows. So it'd be good to get you over to the UK at some point.
Oh, I can't wait to come back, man. I've done some indies over there before and some conventions, and I always have a great time. I think the UK fans are very fun, passionate fans to be around, and hopefully I get back there soon.
Thank you so much. Thanks. Take care.
Thanks, man. Take care. God bless.
Speak to you soon.
Sweet. All right, man. Cool.
Thank you so much for that one.